Okay, so when I'm going to go ahead because of the way Axel set it up. I'm going to go ahead and introduce all three of you, and then I'll just call on you as your turn comes up. So if that's okay with everybody. Yeah, 4 more minutes. Okay, and we're live on Facebook. Okay, so Jen wants to know if the recording is going to be available to the public. Yes, it will be. Thanks for the question. Okay. Let's see, do you have 5:58 on your screen, everybody? A couple more minutes.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just for folks watching, if any public officials or elected officials are on this call and would like to put your name in the chat box, I'm happy to introduce you and just make note of your presence. So feel free to let us know that you're here. Okay. We can get everybody to silence their cell phones and any other noise-making devices, that would help. Great. I'm not sure, Sarah, why your screen is coming on as the main screen. Do you know what's going on there? Sarah?
Is that different now?
Can you put it on speaker? You put it on speaker so that whoever's speaking comes into.
I just selected speaker view, so I'm going to mute myself and let's see if when somebody else speaks, it changes.
Okay. Yeah, you've done something because your screen is not going away. It's like the main screen on.
And I can see everybody in gallery view on my computer, Councilmember Kelly.
Okay, that's working. I think it's working now, Genesis, because you just started speaking and you came onto the center of the screen. So it must be on speaker view. Okay.
Good test.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. It's 6 p.m. on June 21st, June 21, 2021. Aloha kako Maui. How's everybody doing out there? Mahalo nui for joining tonight's town hall webinar on sustainable and regenerative tourism. My name is Kelly Takaya King, and I'm your South Maui Council member and the chair of the Council's Climate Action, Resilience, and Environment Committee. I've organized this evening's town hall to discuss problems, solutions, and opportunities related to Maui's tourism industry. In recent years, consensus has grown that Maui's tourism industry is in a state of imbalance. Tonight, we will discuss if we as a community believe we are in a state of over-tourism and unsustainable tourism, so that together we can begin to chart a solutions-oriented course forward. Maui Island Plan, a document adopted in 2012 by the Council to guide county policy and decision-making, states that we should strive to not exceed an island-wide visitor population of roughly 33% of the resident population. In other words, there should be no more than one visitor to every 3 residents on any given day. On the average day in 2019, we greatly exceeded that number. According to statistics provided by retired Maui College economics professor Dick Mayer, the average daily visitor population in 2019 was 42.1% of the resident population. Despite these growing visitor numbers, total visitor expenditures have stagnated, meaning we are experiencing more stress on our infrastructure and environment from tourists without a corresponding increase in economic benefit. The pandemic showed what life on Maui is like with a break from tourism, and the hasty recovery to a visitor count on par or higher than pre-pandemic levels has led to concern for our quality of life. A recent survey of state residents by the University of Hawaii found support for better regulation of tourism, including more government controls that could lead to limiting numbers at popular destinations across the state and charging higher user fees to offset tourist impacts across the islands. It found that residents don't trust the tourism industry to manage itself, and 52% would prefer to limit the number of visitors. Maui residents are especially feeling this impact. When the Hawaii Tourism Authority last year asked whether tourism has brought more benefits than problems, Maui residents had the lowest average level of agreement with that statement of any county in the state. To address this issue, I introduced a moratorium on visitor accommodations expansion and development in South and West Maui for 2 years or until the completion of the applicable community plan, whichever is sooner. This bill passed first reading last Friday and will head back to Council for second and final reading on July 2nd. Subsequently, an island-wide visitor accommodations moratorium bill introduced by Councilmember Kiani Rollins Fernandez was transmitted to the Planning Commission for their review and comments. The second moratorium would last 2 years from the date of approval or until the findings of a temporary investigative group on tourism management can be implemented, whichever is sooner. But this town hall is not to rehash that debate. Tonight is about listening to you, the community, about whether you believe we are experiencing over-tourism or unsustainable tourism, and the changes to Maui's tourism industry that you would like to see. To initiate the conversation, we have welcomed 3 panelists to share their experiences working with the visitor industry and sustainability. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to mention we weren't able to get a list of the officials that have joined us, but I'm told Council Member Shane Sinensi is here with us. We also, I believe, have Council Member Gabe Johnson. I haven't heard from any other council members, but I did hear from our South Maui representative, Tina Weilberger, who I believe is also on the call. So thank you, the 3 of you, for being on the call. And again, if anybody wants to put their name in the chat box, I'm happy to announce and appreciate any of our elected officials or even government officials who are on this call. So thank you for all of you for attending. Our first panelist is Dr. Genesis Young. Dr. Young is a retired medical doctor who practiced on Maui for many years. Now he is director of both the Network for Nonviolent Communication and the Taryn James Young Foundation. Dr. Young is also the chair of the Sustainable Tourism Subcommittee of the Volunteer Climate Action Advisory Committee, which helped with drafting Resolution 2118, expressing support for sustainable tourism, emphasizing quality over quantity, adopted unanimously by the Council. Our second panelist is Orion Cruz. Orion is a lawyer from Maui who is joining us today from Washington, D.C., where he is an international associate with Defenders of Wildlife. Formerly, he was legal counsel to the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment, and Tourism of the Republic of Palau, an island community that successfully transitioned to becoming a leader in sustainable tourism policies. Rounding out our panel is Ekolu Lindsey. Ekolu is the president of Maui Cultural Lands and co-founder of Polanui Hiu, the first community managed Makai area, or CMMA, on Maui. Ekolu sits on many nonprofit boards and carries forward his family's legacy of service and their vision of protecting and restoring Hawaiian cultural resources and the marine environment. Mahalo to all of you for taking time out of your schedule to participate in tonight's panel. Before we begin, some notes on tonight's format. We will start with the presentations from each of our panelists, followed by a short 5-question poll to gather participants' thought about the tourism industry. Then we will take written questions submitted into Zoom's Q&A function. Please don't use the chat function. We will be taking questions directly out of the Q&A function. You can find this button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Questions submitted into chat or Facebook will not be considered for the panelists tonight due to time constraints. Around 7:20, we will show the results of the poll. Following poll results, we will allow the opportunity for the audience to provide follow-up questions and comments. If you're interested in being added to the queue of speakers tonight, please wait until the poll results are being displayed and then use the raise hand function in Zoom. Staff will add you to the list in the order they see your hand. Staff will call on you and you will be allowed to unmute for 2 minutes to add your question or comment. The 2-minute alarm sounds like this. And do you have that, Sarah? So you can let everyone know. Or we could play it later as well.
Yes.
Can you play
Yes.
it? At 7:50, we'll return to the panel for final thoughts and closing remarks. For those maybe on Facebook to participate in the town hall webinar by Zoom, you may join via Zoom code 982-4433-4389. The event will be streamed to Facebook Live at facebook.com/cmkellytking. Do you have that sound there? That sound bite there, Sarah?
Yes, I'll play it right now for you.
So people know.
Counting down. And...
Okay, sounds like a gong, I guess. Okay, so we're gonna go straight into our panel, and we'll start with Dr. Genesis Young. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Dr. Young. Okay,
Aloha. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you now.
Great, thank you. So I'm Genesis Young, working as the chair of Sustainable Tourism Subcommittee under the Climate Advisory and Resilience and Environment Committee of Councilmember Kelly King. And this slide kind of says it all in a way. Maui can have tourism, but tourism should not have Maui. We need sustainable and regenerative tourism, and that means tourism that respects and improves the environment that it is dependent upon. Tourism that sustains and improves the quality of life for the residents of this island and respects and sustains both the culture and the economy. It's not enough just to sustain, we must actually regenerate and improve our island environment and quality of life. On February 5th, 2021, we passed the Sustainable Tourism Quality over Quantity resolution through the County Council with a unanimous vote. And then, as many of you know, on March 24th, 2021, just a short time after the resolution was passed, our Planning Commission, in defiance of this resolution, permitted the Maui Coast Hotel to build a future 170-bed hotel off South Kihei Road. Wasn't exactly the plan. And so Councilmember King has discussed that there's a moratorium now running through our council, through the legislature here, and hopefully that will help future, but it won't help what's already been approved. So there is a resort cycle, life cycle shown on this graph by Butler's work, and we're actually over the top and into decline now. And we are seeing the point of diminishing benefits because we have so many tourists that are actually creating a poorer experience for the tourists, as well as for us, the residents, and they're degrading the paradise environment that we live in together. This problem of one of sustainability, and to be clear, that is for the environment and for the residents of this paradise and for the tourist industry, or it will destroy itself. The problem is difficult because tourism customers are here for entertainment, by and large. And so their point of view is not about sustainability or protecting the environment or the Hawaiian culture or the residents' quality of life. They just want to have fun, most of all. And the problem is compounded because these visitors are imported. And so we don't have influence over them before they arrive. And they come from all over, and we don't have any connection with them. The visitor industry, of course, is privately run, and various entities are actually competing to see who can attract the most number of tourists to their visitor accommodation, compounding the problem. And therefore, they're not self-regulating. It's all about growth, which eventually will kill the golden goose with just more and more and more visitors. The entire system is working against sustainability and regeneration and is focused on quantity over quality. The entire visitor industry competes with the locals as we share this island with the visitors, and seemingly without the ability to have any control of or ability to have much of a say about the effects of the great number of tourists who arrive. And of course, tourism concerns resources which we're sharing. Water, electricity, for example, and we import 80% of our food, which has an effect on our food security as the island contains maybe 2 weeks of food. And additionally, there's a high carbon cost of the emissions for the air travel to bring the food to the island. The tourists and the residents share the island resources, including the beauty of the sunsets. And unfortunately, as we know, Haleakala now limits the sunrise experience, requiring reservations because of overcrowding. Tourism creates waste. One of the areas of greatest waste is actually food waste that goes to our dump, where it decomposes and releases methane, which further contributes to global warming. And for example, in the UK, as this slide shows, is estimated to be about 79,000 metric tons each year of food waste. And if food waste were a country, that would actually be the third largest CO2 producer for the world. Food production is responsible for about 25% of the world's carbon emissions. So we need balance, not over tourism. And that would mean protecting the quality of life for our locals and still maximizing the local economic impact, which means higher quality, higher spending tourists and fewer numbers of tourists overall. And this would mean, from the tourist industry's point of view, elevating the visitor experience, which of course is dependent on improving their local experience and the environment and protecting those key assets for the tourist industry and for us alike. The visitor industry and the residents really want and need the same things. And that means sustainable regenerative tourism, quality over quantity. The contribution of tourism to global warming should not be forgotten, as it's estimated to be about 8% of world emissions and growing. And most of this is actually due to air travel. And that's particularly true for Hawaii, given the distance it takes to travel. Emissions for planes are the highest at 0.82 pounds of CO2 per passenger, and that's per mile. So you have to multiply that by the number of miles to get here. And of course, most places are, like LA is 2,490 miles away, and Japan's 4,334 miles away. And actually, we had the Dr. Ton Keeney calculated that, and he says that in 2019, Hawaii air travel for visitors contributed 18 million tons of CO2 equivalent emissions. And to put that in perspective, all island ground transportation emitted 4 million tons only of CO2 in 2019. So that's 18 versus 4. Okay, and this is where we are. Last week, we had 29,529 arrivals by air, which compared to, during the pandemic, of course, it was nothing. But compared to 2019, which is the green line at the top, this is already exceeding some of the lows we had in 2019. So we're making quite a rapid return of our tourist numbers, as we've all experienced. And this is what's happening. Resident sentiment is down. This has led to very unhappy residents, as these pictures reflect. And we're seeing snarled traffic like Tohana, and resident protests, which is not good for the tourist industry. And the number of tourists must be decreased for us and for the tourist industry, as well as for the environment. We all know the over-tourism issues that we're living with, the traffic, the crowded beaches and stores, and disrespect for the culture, and the reef degradation with fewer fish, and our sewage management problems, and water use, and distribution of the water. We need space. There are just too many people, and this is also contributing to climate change and is decreasing the quality of life for Maui County residents. We need to find solutions urgently, and we are here tonight to listen to those ideas you have. The harm that is being done by the visitor industry affects the visitor industry and the natural world and us, the residents, and creates a visitor industry obligation, to repair the harm and make it right. We have a sustainable quality over quantity resolution in place and a hotel moratorium moving through, and hopefully that will soon be in place, but we need more to actually decrease the number of tourists, possibly by converting short-term rentals to long-term rentals, which would help our affordable housing problem as well, and possibly an SID or a special improvement district that has the visitor industry contribute to environmental cleanup and regeneration. Well, thank you for your time, and I will turn this back over to Councilmember King.
Okay, mahalo, Dr. Young. Thank you for that great perspective from someone who's been here many years. Really appreciate kicking off with where we're at and offering some possible solutions. Next, we're going to go to panelist Orion Cruz, who has spent a lot of time helping Palau with their sustainable tourism solutions. So he's going to give us a perspective from another island community. Okay, Mr. Cruz, go ahead and take it away.
All right, get my screen share here going. Does that look good?
That looks great. And I think I did hear that you're a Maui boy. So
that's right.
Maui?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually I'll be heading to DC in a week. So right now I'm up in Kula.
Okay. So we caught you before you took off. Awesome.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
exactly.
Thank you so much for
All
being
right. Thank you for having me. So aloha, everyone. Thank you for that introduction earlier, Councilmember King. It's great to be part of this town hall with you, as well as Dr. Young and Ekolu. So before getting right into it, I just want to make sure I give my thanks for all the important work that all of you are doing that benefits us all. So when I was asked to participate, I was told it would be good to hear a little bit about what Palau has done to transition to a sustainable tourism industry. So what I'm going to do for the next 10 minutes is just briefly describe some of the experiences a tourist might go through in Palau, with the hope that hearing about another jurisdiction's efforts to improve tourism might contribute to discussions about tourism here on Maui. So one important thing to keep in mind is that rather than describing things exactly as they currently are in Palau, I'm going to describe a couple initiatives which are still in the works as if they've already been fully implemented. So the examples are meant to give you an idea of where tourism in the country is going, rather than describe exactly how things are in this moment. Since many of you may not be familiar with the country of Palau, I'm just going to quickly start by sharing some basic information about it. It's an archipelago of hundreds of islands. It's got a population of around 20,000. All the main islands where people live are pretty small. So if you were to combine them, it would actually still be smaller than the island of Maui. Tourism is very important to the economy, directly employing about 20% of the population. And most people visit for marine tourism. So before the pandemic, the country had about 90,000 visitors per year. But during much of the decade before that, the country had been experiencing really large year-on-year increases of visitors. And it was the negative impacts that came from all these visitors that served as one of the main catalysts for the government to focus on encouraging high-end, low-volume tourism that promotes local culture and sustainability. So a typical trip to Palau probably starts at the computer with someone looking up places where they can enjoy world-class diving and snorkeling. And if they end up coming across Palau during this online search, apart from finding some amazing pictures and videos of marine wildlife, they might also discover that Palau is internationally recognized for establishing one of the largest fully protected marine areas in the world, known as the Palau National Marine Sanctuary. And the PNMS is the shorthand for that. So while the PNMS was passed for conservation and food security reasons, it's relevant to tourism because I think it really has also become a driver of tourism to Palau, in part by helping people learn about the country in the first place, but also by motivating ecologically minded people to visit. So if someone has decided to go to Palau and they're making a purchase of an airline ticket, I think the average person is going to be taking note of how expensive tickets are. Most of that involve, that's because it's such a small, isolated country. But another factor that contributes to that is that everyone who purchases airfare to Palau is paying an extra $100 to cover what's called the Pristine Paradise Environmental Fee. This $100 supports the country in a variety of ways, but a substantial portion of it goes to fund Palau's Protected Areas Network, which is kind of like their national park system. The collection of this fee means that every tourist in Palau starts off their trip by supporting environmental conservation in the country. After making it to Palau, visitors entering the country will notice that a movie is playing for them on a couple screens while they wait to make it through immigration. The movie, which includes an animated giant learning to tread carefully in Palau, conveys the message that visitors to the country should treat the people and environment with respect. This is part of the Palau Pledge experience, which then continues when you get to an immigration officer who stamps your passport with the pledge and asks you to sign it. That pledge, which everyone signs upon entering the country, conveys the same message as the movie. So every visitor entering the country is actively pledging to behave in an ecologically and culturally responsible way while visiting the country. Another experience visitors to Palau will have comes after they grab their bags and head to customs. As they approach customs, they'll probably remember they were asked on their customs form whether they're bringing sunscreen into the country or not. And they were asked this question because Palau has adopted the world's strictest national sunscreen standard by banning the import, sale, distribution, and manufacture of all sunscreens containing active ingredients and preservatives known or suspected to be reef toxic. And now they're going to see if the sunscreen you declared meets their standard. Unlike Hawaii, there isn't an exception for bringing in your own reef toxic sunscreen. Currently, the only sunscreen that's allowed in Palau are those that are mineral sunscreens that exclusively list zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as their active ingredients. And so, you might think, wow, this seems pretty unnecessarily strict, but what Palau did here was they adopted a precautionary approach to sunscreen pollution. Rather than only banning sunscreen ingredients that have been proven to be reef toxic, the decision was made to only allow sunscreens with ingredients that have been shown to be reef safe. So after arriving at a hotel, a visitor in Palau might notice a plaque in the lobby indicating that the hotel participates in a business sustainability certification program. Perhaps even that was the reason that the visitor ended up at that hotel, because they were promoted internationally, or promoting themselves, or promoted by perhaps the Palau Visitors Authority as being a sustainable hotel. Getting these plaques requires implementing sustainability policies and going well beyond current tourism regulations to protect the environment and educate visitors about responsible tourism. So after checking in and arriving at their room, visitors will see that there's information in their room that explains what constitutes culturally respectful behavior in Palau. And during their stay at the hotel, visitors might also notice that the gift shop doesn't give out plastic bags. The bar where they're having a drink doesn't have plastic straws or use disposable drink stirrers or coasters. The room doesn't have disposable toiletries. And the restaurant maybe that they're eating at could be sourcing local ingredients from local agricultural producers to comply with tourism regulations. In terms of activities, at some point in their trip, visitors might also be notified about a free event sponsored by the hotel, where locals and guests will be able to volunteer for an activity that positively impacts the environment, such as volunteering for part of the day at a reforestation site. So a typical tour in Palau is going to involve water-based activities in the Rock Island Southern Lagoon. So most visitors are going to find themselves out on a boat soon after arriving. And while out on a typical diving or snorkeling tour, one of the things visitors will experience is an environmental briefing given to them by a tour guide who's been educated on Palau's environment. Among other things, that briefing is going to include a reminder about the Palau Pledge that you signed. There'll be an explanation of best practices for that day's activities. And visitors will also be asked to pick up trash if they happen to see any. After diving or snorkeling, lunch is usually enjoyed on an island equipped with some barbecues and picnic benches. And during that lunch, visitors might notice that there aren't any disposable items provided at all. There's a water cooler people are filling up at. There's no styrofoam lunch container or disposable utensils or anything like that. And on the last day of a visitor's trip to Palau, one final thing that they will experience before leaving will occur at checkout. After paying for their lodging, the concierge will provide them with information about a program that offers visitors the ability to calculate and offset the carbon emissions associated with their trip. They'll encourage participation in the program and explain that these offsets will directly support one or more local projects in Palau that contribute to the country's sustainable development. Now, while a visitor offsetting the emissions of their trip doesn't necessarily make their trip sustainable, the idea here is to increase awareness about the impact of traveling during our current climate crisis, and to encourage them to make a positive contribution to Palau and to the planet that they likely wouldn't have made otherwise. So, of course, a visitor to Palau is going to experience a lot more than this, but that's all I'm going to mention for now. So hopefully that leaves you with an impression of what kind of visitor experience Palau is working to create.
Okay, thank you so much, Orion. Can you just say a few words about when you started this effort? What was there one incident that triggered it, or what triggered the movement towards sustainability?
Well, I think Palau, the people of Palau are generally oriented in this direction, and so this kind of efforts towards conservation have been moving forward for quite some time. But in recent years, as I briefly mentioned, 2012, 2013, up and peaking around 2015, 2016, there was a large increase in visitors. And that dramatic increase year on year, I think, really started to show people that the downsides of tourism and the ecological impacts that can come from it. People were having a lot of negative interactions with visitors who didn't know how to interact with them in a culturally appropriate way. Just things you would imagine and perhaps experience here with people, accidentally being rude or dressing in a way that really doesn't comport with local norms, or eating people's fruit out of their yard, or stepping on the reefs, all those kinds of things. And so I think the awareness that further action needed to be taken, and really a model of tourism that involved less guests and allowed Palau to take greater benefits from that tourism. I think that became a consensus.
Okay, great. Well, we're hearing a lot of the similar experiences as to what we're seeing on Maui now, so that's really helpful. Thank you so much for that presentation. And we're going to move on to our next presenter, who is Ekolu Lindsey. And a lot of you folks may know Ekolu. He's been around for a long time and participating in many government opportunities for advocacy of more sustainability. And most recently, Ekolu, I believe, were you on the CPAC for the West Maui Community Plan?
I participated, but I wasn't on the
okay.
on the panel.
Okay, so we'll ask Orion if you could stop your screen share. We'll bring Ekolu on and have him share his screen. There we go. Okay. Would you like to share your screen?
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Hopefully it works.
Yeah, if you could click
So-
on the icon that's for the
Yeah,
slideshow.
sometimes run a little bit slow on my side. Old computers don't have a nice way of working with technology. Right? Good.
There we go.
Well, perfect. Aloha, everybody. I'm Ekolu Lindsey. Thank you, Councilmember King and Dr. Young, for presenting that information. Was very informative, and Orion, beautiful. The challenges that sets forth that Palau is already experiencing, it seems like where we were several years ago. So there's a lot to learn from that. So with Polanui Hugh, Polanui is the name of my, the ahupua'a my family's home is on. This is was our family's refrigerator. We've looked at tourism, and we all know the impacts of what tourism, the user conflicts that exist. So I wanted to just show a few images of the many challenges that I see that happens in our backyard every day. You know, when we had the pandemic come by, we had a respite from this. Now I see this happening all day, every day, and the impacts are evident, especially when the tide is low. And you have people that are just on the reefs all the time. It's really bothersome. So we got together as a community and we did our homework, we did our research, establishing baselines, looked at what needed to be done, how we can do it. We continue these baselines, but the outreach that we do is very important to future leadership, as well as current leadership, to see the impacts that these reefs had. So sharing that with our next group of leaders coming up is also an important way for us to take care of this problem. So we really feel that sharing that information with our new leaders coming up to be more impactful, because by the time any kind of legislation goes through, these adults, these young men and women will be the leaders of tomorrow. So during the pandemic, we saw nature come back. We had 2-3 monk seals on the yard, just cruising up and down, which is a beautiful thing to see because this was a rare occasion. So what we did is we tried to come up with ways to inform the many commercialized recreational uses that occur in this space here to protect our coral reefs. Right, drawing them maps, tried our education and outreach, but there's always something missing. That user conflict still exists today. Now, if you look at this video, hopefully you can see it. We have a conflict with nature. See that seal popping up? So why are you guys not paying attention to nature? And this is just a small example of what's happening that we see every day. So when I'm asked to participate in this, all I could do and think about is illuminate the many challenges that exist, right? So we are impeding our cultural lifeways by the amount of tourism that's coming in. Over the years, we let tourism get out of hand. It was meant to supplement the agricultural industry. And we nurtured that child we call tourism into a spoiled adult. I'll say it again, a spoiled adult. Over the years, we've had all kinds of models to control tourism, including agritourism, ecotourism, voluntourism, and now we have sustainable tourism, which Dr. Young alluded to, but now we have regenerative tourism. All of these models designed to control tourism to a point. Have they helped? Have they been effective? I think just driving around Front Street or going to Hana speaks loads for the amount of work that we have to do in front of us. And we are at a precipice where we need to make a decision. We need to change the game of tourism. We need to shift attitudes, right? We need to create new social norms. And how in the world we're going to do this? Education and outreach just does not do the job enough. We need a call to action. We need to change those perspectives. And how are we going to do that? By using Hawaiian cultural values and Aina-based volunteer projects. Right? Our cultural values are not just words or something we live by. It's processes. It's a process that needs to be learned. Right? For instance, the first thing we need to learn is kupono, honesty. to be honest with yourself, with the people around you, and all the circles we run in life. Ku, to stand up. Pono, righteous, to stand up and be a righteous person. So basically, it starts with us in the individual. And the solution to what we're calling over-tourism also lies within all industries, multiple methods of reaching our visitors, our guests, but we have to hold ourselves just as accountable. I see local people not doing good things too. So it's not just tourists, it is everybody. We cannot point the finger, one finger, because you get the other fingers pointed back, right? So we have to take care of things ourselves. The other thing we need to learn is malama. The process of malama. What is that malama? To take care of, to nurture, to learn the responsibility of, to be diligent. It's an action, reaction of a generation of life, cultural lifeways and life systems. That includes all of nature. Say that again, malama. Kokua is to automatically help without any expectations. In order to us to learn kokua, we need to know kupono and malama first. Then we move into kokua. And I say this again, it's a process. It's not just something that we do. We have to learn these things. We have to be automatic with sharing these values. And after you can learn kupono, malama, and kokua, then we can practice aloha, love and compassion. Aloha should be automatic. Right now, everyone's talking aloha spirit, but I can tell you with the user conflict that I am seeing and the economics that have taken over our natural resources, our Hawaiian cultural resources that are degrading by the day, and people not being happy, it's a problem. I was hoping to offer some solutions today, but as I thought and talked and read and looked, I find that the solution lies within each and every one of us. Everyone has to do their part utilizing cultural values. Now, Aina-based activities, what is that? Land-based activities. How can we have our visitors come in and be more respectful? By changing the game, they have to come in and say, I want to give back. I want to help. I want to leave this place better than when I got. Is that even possible if we're using all these resources, if we're taxing our infrastructures? But I tell you what, we got to do something. So the act of doing something hopefully is something good, because we know if we do nothing or disguise the truth in another term called regenerative tourism, then we are actually compounding or supporting that spoiled adult, right? So we need to take a look at these things. How do we implement these processes? HTA and Hawaiian Tourism Authority and Hawaiian Visitors Convention Bureau just put out the Malama Hawaii program, and I think that's a good start. There needs to be some tweaking. If you're unfamiliar with that, please go and Google that Malama Hawaii program. So it incentivizes visitors to give back to the community. If you're signed up, you got all the hotels signed up, and now you have nonprofits that signed up. So they get to come and they get to learn Malama, right? They get to learn the process of Malama. And in return, they get a voucher for a free night, maybe to spend some money at the restaurant. That's a great way to incentivize. So what we do at Maui Culture Lands, as well as Kipuka Oluwalo, these are two nonprofits, Aina-based. People get to work, they get to practice, they get to learn these processes, they get to get their hands in the dirt to remove invasive species, but also understand why the culture is important, why the certain trees belong in that space and not the invasive species. What are the cultural uses of these things? What is the history of our island? What happened to the water? All of these issues right in front of them. What about our landscapes? What's happening with our cultural landscapes? You know, people come with good ideas and intentions, but if we don't share these spaces with them and create a better visitor, not just in Hawaii, but for wherever they may be, there is no way we can make this world a better place for our great-great-grandchildren. So we need to take an effective change and change those social norms now, because it is our responsibility and we are failing at it. We are failing at it. So let's make a change in it all. And I really encourage everyone listening in on this, and thank you for being here, to take a look at what we're doing collectively, individually, as a business, all of that. I want to leave you with this last note. Because when I thought about this, number one person that came to my mind was this person.
I would like for you to consider the amount of attacks we have had upon our cultural sites. If these sites are destroyed, as my 4-year-old grandson asked me, "Grandpa, why is this important?" It took me a little while what this 4-year-old kid was trying to ask me. And my answer was, because that's who we are. If you destroy these places, who are we? What makes Maui special? You know that 75% of the endangered plants in the United States come from Hawaii. We need to come back out here and protect these things that have evolved for millions of years. And it's not found anywhere else in the world. Aloha is endangered. Too many people misuse and abuse the word aloha. Aloha is love and compassion. It's not me, mine, I. It's love and compassion. Compassion for everything around us. Compassion for the land, the ocean, living things. So we need to be passionate, and people need to understand that it's very important for the history and for the well-being of the future generations. We don't know what these plants have that can help us. Anytime you come together, you should make it a point to recognize people and to treat them properly, so that nobody's a stranger. Where did life come from? Ikikai. Where did we come from? Ikikai. We must malama each other, this earth, this ocean, and all living things. These things are good for us to use, not to abuse. We have that responsibility to maintain and to regenerate the spirit of the land. Everybody can participate in this if they allow the culture to survive. Otherwise, Hawaii will just be another name on a map with no meaning. There are certain things that money cannot buy, and this is one of these places where money cannot buy. This is who we are. If you take this away, who are we? Just voices in the wind.
Wow, chicken skin. Ekolu.
Thank you.
I wish we could have closed out the session tonight with that video. That was beautiful. Just really, really gave me chicken skin. Thank you so much for that. We're going to be coming back to you with a lot of these questions, I'm sure. Right now, what I'd like to do is go just put up the poll questions. We've got 5 questions, and we'll put a question up at a time and give participants 30 seconds to answer it. And then we're going to go, after we go through the 5 questions, then we're going to go into Q&A from the public. So stand by, panelists. We'll have questions for you directly after the poll. Sarah, you want to go ahead and start the poll? Okay, this is the first question. Question number 2. Okay, next question. Next question. We're on number 4. Okay, last question. Okay, and then we're going to tally these up, and then after we finish with Q&A, we'll give the results of the poll before we go into our guest commentary period. All right, thank you, Sarah, for sharing those questions. And I'm going to move on to the questions from the Q&A. The first one is a question about whether Maui is going to enact the 3% surcharge on TAT. This bill has actually been vetoed by the governor. So at this point, we don't have the option. I do want to mention that I heard, I saw a press release from our mayor saying that he supported the 3% surcharge. But at this point, it doesn't look like an option. Okay, second question. Do panelists support further fee or tax increases? So I'm going to let our panelists answer that question, whether or not you support further property tax increases. And we'll start with Ekolu.
Oh, that's a tough one. Taxes, nobody wants to see taxes go up, but I think within the tax structure itself, vacation rental homes definitely need to be taxed higher. I mean, I think the structure in place we have now is a good structure that we have. We need to we need to also incentivize more people to live here in their homes that they own. So give some incentives to maybe even businesses that can support local organizations somehow. You know, all these nonprofits need some support. You know, maybe it can incentivize there somewhere. But the tax structure is always a hot topic, Kelly, and I don't know how to answer that one. Maybe Orion can shed some light, although it's probably Dr. Young's wheelhouse there.
Okay, we'll go to Orion next. Do you support further increases in property taxes or fees?
Well, I guess the way I would answer that question is I don't think I support increased property taxes for normal local residents. but I think that in certain contexts, it may be appropriate, right? I think we should be working to try to disincentivize, as Ekolu was talking about, people having second homes, homes that, yeah, I think we just want to disincentivize that. I think if there's people that aren't living here full time and they're using those rooms to rent out or whatnot, there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but I think it has negative impacts on the broader community, and therefore we should try to discourage it through taxes or through other means.
Okay, great, thank you. Any comment, Dr. Young?
Oh, I just, yeah, we already had the meetings about the taxes, and we shouldn't be raising them, of course, on the locals, but I believe you already have it so that we're incentivizing long-term rentals coming up to decrease the taxes for long-term rentals as a way to try to push people to move their short-term rentals into long-term rentals, and raise the price on short-term rentals, raise the price on hotels and timeshares. All of those are separate categories, which doesn't hurt the local people and does incentivize the hotels to then raise their rates, which hopefully when they raise their rates, then there's fewer tourists. And they're also looking at, I think, raising the price of water for the high users. So if you're a high user hotel, then that would cost you more, and then you'd be raising again the fees. And that might be a way to try to decrease the number of tourists by raising the prices on the hotels. I don't know how effective it would be, but it's one option we have. And just generally trying to figure out how to raise fees, and to, like, Palau has the $100 fee that Orion was talking about. We need to find ways to do that, but it's always a county versus state versus, like who does it and how do we do it? And like with the TAT so complicated because it's involving the state, and I'm taking anyway, we won't go on and on, but yes.
Okay. It sounds like it's a good topic for discussion where we implement fees and raise property taxes. And to its credit, the council this year really focused on the high-end housing and the non-owner occupied and short-term rentals on the tax increases. Okay, what is the #1 unsustainable quality of tourism? How are you addressing this, and how can the public be involved? So I'm going to just say that I think everyone's got their idea of what the #1 unsustainable quality is. Mine would be, high impact on our environment, and where as far as how we're addressing this is going to be the first in a series of 3, possibly 4 town halls that will lead into, and we haven't got a date yet, but a sustainable tourism summit, where we'd like to have a broad stakeholder group involved in that, and actually coming up with real solutions that are, that we can vet and implement on a county level. So that's the intent of this first town hall, is to march forward into that summit to come up with those solutions and have legal advice as well as industry advice on what might work. So that's my answer of the one unsustainable quality. If anybody else wants to jump in with their #1 unsustainable quality of tourism, is the question.
It's just too many tourists, overcrowding everywhere on the reefs, the roads, the store. Too many, just too many.
Too many, okay. Ekolu?
Yeah, I'd agree with Dr. It's just too many, too many tourists crowding out. We've had our places back for a year now. All the places that a lot of people never used to go visit. Your hikes were all to ourselves. Fishing. I saw people fishing in Kaanapali Beach. I asked the lady, when's the last time you fished there? She told me 40 years ago. Right.
Wow.
So now that we got our places back, we can share them. We're welcome to share them, but we don't like being crowded out. So, I did ask somebody in the MVCB, if you had a magic wand, what would you do? And you could do something with tourism. And her response to me was, I'd have them be more respectful. And that's on so many different levels.
Okay, that's a great response. Orion, do you want to respond to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with Dr. Young and Ekolu on that, but I guess one thing that I'll add is just the unsustainability of such long trips that people are taking all around the world, in such great numbers. I think we have to work as a global community to figure out other ways to travel, less air travel, or more sustainable fuels for the jets, whatever it is. We got to make progress in that area.
Okay, great answer. And just to correct myself earlier about the TAT surcharge, it's not been vetoed yet, but it is on the governor's veto list. So stay tuned. You can, if you're so inclined, you can actually send letters to the governor encouraging him to veto it or not veto it. The next question is about short-term rental rates. Short-term rental rates continue to rise, but have not slowed the practice or the rate of property price increases. Does the group support further increases? So this is the kind of the same thing we talked about earlier, property tax increases. And I think we said that we do support raising property taxes on those non-residential properties that are causing the problem. I'm going to move on to the next one. Can we hear more about what a quality tourist looks like? That's probably a subjective thing, but we had a conversation earlier, Orion and I did, and I'll just mention what I was intending when we passed the resolution on sustainable tourism. That I see a quality tourist as somebody who understands their environmental impact and is conscious about making the lightest environmental impact that they can, who respects our host culture, somebody who respects the law, and in terms of things like staying on the trail, don't go off the trail, don't take our coral and our volcanic rock home, don't rent unpermitted visitor accommodations, because that's one of the things that's been driving rents up and the cost of housing. Now, pay attention to the laws, pay attention to the environment, support local. So, you don't have to be, we're not really talking about only wanting tourists to have a lot of money, but if you have $50 to go out to dinner, choose a local restaurant. Don't go to a national or international chain. So just being conscious of how you can support us locally, and also being involved in projects like the ones Ekolu talked about. Go out and do a beach cleanup, or go to an educational, an environmental or Hawaiian cultural educational opportunity, and learn about our islands, learn about what makes us so special beyond just the beaches and the reefs. So anybody wants to add anything to that?
I'll add to that. I think you hit everything. I see them all the time, and they're normally with me getting dirty, pulling weeds, putting plants in the ground and cleaning them up. And at the end of the day, they will have given back a little bit. They feel better, they feel welcome. And by enhancing that visitor experience and making them an authentic experience in this case, and allowing them to learn a little bit of the cultural things that I talked about, they can go home and they can share that from wherever they are at. And I think for us, that's our goal, is to create better people, better stewards of the land and our natural resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think that also enhances the visitor experience. People can come here and feel like they're part of who we are, and that they get a better understanding of who we are. Okay, the next question is, can we keep Disney or certain other corporations out of the county? I'm for that. I don't think we need a Disneyland here. So if anybody feels differently, let me know. The next question, also along those authority lines, can we limit visitors and rental cars? That's a really tricky question, but does anybody want to answer that? If not, I can give my thoughts on, there's certain things we can do as a county. There's certain things we can't do because we're not the state. The state operates the airports and the harbors. The state owns the Hana Highway and certain other roads, the Pi'ilani Highway. So there's some things we can't do. We can't keep the numbers of flights from being, we can't just blanketly eliminate certain flights. The reports are that the new flights that have been added are resulting in like 5,000 people a day landing on Maui. And but one of the things we can do is have those conversations. And I want to thank Councilmember Johnson, because he has started reaching out to the airline executives and invited me to a meeting with Alaska Airlines later on this week. And so, starting those conversations with the people who are bringing the tourists here and making them understand what that means when they add these extra flights on, I think is really important. There are things that we can do, like the moratorium on building and cracking down on illegal short-term rentals, which we have been doing for a few years now. The numbers, the reports from the planning department are that as far as the unpermitted illegal short-term rentals, the numbers have dropped to less than 200 since they started working on that. And it was well over 1,000 previously. So they are making headway, but there's more to do. And one of the things that I had proposed is going to go into effect next year or at the end of this year is to give a tax break to landlords who rent to long-term to residents at reasonable rates. So, you know, we have a big stick that we can punish people who do illegal rentals. We have a $20,000 fine we can levy now and $10,000 a day if they continue to do it. But we also, you know, my feeling is we also need a carrot. We need to recognize when people are doing the right thing and using their rentals to help people with housing and offering that to our residents for long term. So those are some of the things we can do. There are a lot of other ideas floating around. Genesis gave some, Orion had a lot of ideas from Palau, and Ekolu had some ideas. And so we'll be exploring those at the summit in more detail. One of my ideas, I'm going to throw this out there because I'm just trying to get reaction to it to see if we get support for it. But right now we find our people on our island or maybe off island who are renting illegal short-term rentals that don't have permits, but we don't find the people who stay in them. So, you know, if we added a fine to the tourist for picking an unpermitted short-term rental, that may have an effect as well. So those are the kinds of things that we need to kind of vet out in a summit for legality, for practicality, and for effectiveness. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Tahiti knew that building infrastructure to meet the demand of their destination was a losing game. They raised prices to balance a sustainable demand. What do you think of this approach? So the approach of raising prices. And let's go to Orion first, because I know you've had some experience with that.
Yeah, I think what I would say about that is that being in Palau, it seemed to me that visitors really are willing to pay a premium to visit a place, particularly when that place is establishing itself as a sustainable destination. I think, you know, there is some negative sides to charging more for things. You know, it does kind of limit access to that place. You know, but at the same time, I don't think we should be, you know, sacrificing, you know, the place that we live in the name of accessibility to others. You know, so you got to prioritize, I think, in these types of situations. And when you charge more in different ways to visit the place, you know, you're going to end up also with less environmental impacts, you know, with less crowding, with visitors that really are more interested in understanding the culture and enjoying the beauty of the place. And I think that to me seems like the goal.
Okay, good answer. Anybody else want to add to that? Genesis?
I do if Genesis doesn't have anything.
Go ahead, Ekolu.
I think, you know, Hawaii used to be a place where people would save a lot of money before coming here. It was a special place for them to visit. They come and they enjoy themselves. And, you know, we just had that level of appreciation. And nowadays we got airfare that's cheaper. We have a lot of different types of accommodations that are available that are cheaper. So we're getting more visitors, but not increasing the amount of money that's coming in. So, you know, we need to try and figure out what we can do to get a hold on all of this and keep them, maybe even keep the visitors corralled, I hate to use that term, but into tourist spaces so local people can have spaces. So I know when I visited Palau and all the different islands they had specific islands that visitors could go to, and the others was just all for local people. And that green fee, and we've been talking about these green fees for many years now, that went to direct to enforcement with their rangers on site. So if they caught you fishing or doing something where you weren't supposed to do, they take everything away from you. And you got to go before the chief to ask for your stuff back, but not just you, your whole family got to go. So there is that shame that they put on your families when you come up with these things. Would be awesome if we could do something like that. Not just you, your whole family got to go up there, but I don't think we can do that in our world, in our part of the world, right? That's all. I'm sure Dr. Young has.
You touched on the next question, so I'm going to put this out to you too. How do we encourage visitors to spend time in specific areas? If we wanted to keep them, in certain areas, how do we do that?
Social media has a way of glorifying these hard to reach places. And when these visitors are going off track, they get in trouble. It takes first responders away from auntie or uncle who really needs that response, especially in those rural areas. We only have so many first responders to take care of these. So I don't know how we can keep them into a place, but even we hearing a lot of them getting stuck in the mountains, flash floods, they're getting hurt, right? People getting washed off cliffs, people getting blown out to sea because they're not aware of the dangers that they're playing in. It's eat, sleep, and play in Hawaii, and it's a paradise, but they aren't aware of those dangers. How can we keep them corralled? I don't know. How does Mexico do it?
I think you brought up a good point too, where a lot of people who come here think that it's like Disneyland, like they're safe. If you're on a ride, a roller coaster ride is supposed to be safe. It'll scare you to death, but you won't die. People don't realize that this is not Disneyland. This is not. We don't have, going into the ocean is not like going on a Disneyland ride. You're not guaranteed safety because a lot of it depends on your own behavior. So that's part of it. I think that's one of the critical pieces of education we have to make for tourists, is that explain to them, that's beautiful out there, and certain areas have the reason they have wild beauty is because they're wild areas and they are not necessarily safe. But the more dangerous you see a place, the more you treat it like a dangerous place, the safer it is.
I think HVCB, MVCB has put out a lot of videos that try to keep people safe, but how do we get that message out? Why can't we get them on the airlines? Everyone's talking about why can't we put them on every single airlines and have them see these messages? Where Palau's doing it, why can't we? We're the big guy here, but the little guys can do it, but we cannot. We get more rules. I mean, this media attention should come multifaceted: airlines, airports, rental cars, hotels, businesses. So the message is hit across several different times, and then maybe somebody will listen.
Yeah, maybe we'll borrow some of your video ideas that Palau is doing on the airlines. I think that, to me, and even before, I think there might be a way to contact tourists, once they book their trip, before they even get on the plane. Because one of the problems with waiting till they get here is they've already booked where they're staying. And a lot of them have picked illegal places to stay in. Once they get here, it's too late. They have nowhere else to go if they don't stay in those illegal short-term rentals. So we've got to find a way of getting the information out to those people who are, maybe online when they're booking their trips. That there may be a fine, or you may be, if you're not well equipped or in shape to do some of these activities you're planning to do, then you've got to treat it like a dangerous situation. But you have something to say, Orion? I'm going to go ahead and
go ahead, Orion.
I was just going to wholeheartedly agree with what Ekolu was saying. I think you can't just communicate a message to a visitor one time and then expect them to fully take that in and implement it. So I think it's really important, and it's one thing that Palau's definitely working on, is throughout that trip that the visitor is going to take, trying to get them on all these different touch points throughout that journey, reinforcing the messages, helping to make it easy for them to do the right thing.
Okay.
I'd just like to add to that. Maybe I'll just share my screen for a moment about the Malama Maui County Pledge. I have to move it over. That's the visitor statistics.
Perfect, because we were actually going to show that at some point. So if you've already got that, there you go. Okay.
There you go. It's coming up here.
We can see it.
Okay, so I just want people to look at that for a minute. And this is should be, as far as I'm concerned, be everywhere in Maui. And we should be doing just what Palau does and have them sign it. The back should be, I agree to this. And they can have incentives too, where they get, some kind of a gift or something if they do something, you know, we need it, but we need a program. Right now we passed this Malama Maui County Pledge, which is really beautiful to read, but it's not being used really. It's being left for hotels or visitor associations to put on their wall, but it's not being used in a way like Palau's making it an active living document. And we could have a video, you know, on the planes, and this could be up all over the airports. It could be something they have to sign. I really, you know, feel very strongly we should try to use what we already have written, because this is really a beautiful one. And I think we should just, you know, come together to really make this more used, I feel like.
Okay, excellent. And why don't you stay on, and I'm going to pose the next question to you first. How can we make the bus and public transportation or multimodal transportation more accessible and desirable for visitors? Any thoughts about that?
I'm not, are you asking me? Because I don't know how to take care of the transportation.
That's okay if you don't want to, if
Yeah,
you
I
have
don't
thoughts
know
on
that one.
Okay,
I mean, I
so
think it's a
anybody
good
else?
idea to do that, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, I will just say, oh, Ekolu, you have some thoughts on
Oh,
that?
I got an answer for that. Don't bring in any more rental cars. They're forced to take the bus. With the prices of rental cars
Awesome.
nowadays, are you crazy? I'm taking a bus. You know, that's one way to force people to limit the amount, you know, and I've sat in the MPO meetings, and we're looking at ways to mass transit people to their hotels so they can stay there. They don't need to rent a car and drive there and let it sit for 2, 3, 4 days while they're paying $50 a night on storage or parking fees alone, right? Save them some money, get them there, reduce the impacts of traffic and pollution, and then have satellites throughout all these places where they can go ahead and rent cars, because nowadays, like, not much hotels have rental cars available on their properties. They used to have it before in those hotels, but not anymore.
Yeah, I think Andaz has a rental car. I think there are a few select hotels on our island that have rental car, you know, desks, so you can go and you can rent a car that will come to your hotel for the day. But not, yeah, you're right, not all of them, but excellent answer. Don't bring any more rental cars onto the island, and stop renting U-Hauls to tourists. Okay, next question. What are the legal obstacles? I don't know if this is something, I guess I could answer this. What are the legal obstacles to limiting traffic on the road to Hana, and how can we overcome them? So I've been told that trying to make it into a toll road would not work. That's not a legal process that's available to us. It's difficult with roads like Hana Highway because they're state owned. So the Hana Highway, the county does not own that road. We do oversee the police department, and so we have some jurisdiction over traffic tickets, and we can certainly increase the enforcement of the parking enforcement, because one of the problems is people are parking alongside the road where it's not legal and blocking emergency access. You know, if a fire truck had to go down the road, there's some places where I've been told by a lot of people they wouldn't be able to get through because of cars parked on either side of the road. So we can beef up our enforcement possibly and start ticketing people. I know, you know what those things are called that they put on your tire that locks your tire? A boot? Boot. Yeah, so they have those that they can ticket you and stick something like that on till you come and pay your ticket. But those are some of the things that I'm also hoping will be on the discussion for the next town hall, because and that's why we asked Councilmember Sinensi to host the next one, because there are specific issues that are happening out in East Maui that he has been very involved in and looking into these.
I had a comment on that road to Hana. I went to Kenai and took my mom back there with me, doing some planning with the Kenai group on the conservation action plans. And she hadn't been there in 12 years. And she was shocked at the amount of cars that were there. And every nook and cranny, you had people swimming. Speaking with the guys from Kenai, one of the other issues that pops up is that when everyone's swimming in the ponds, everyone's oiled up in sunscreen, right? So that water is going down to their taro patches, and they're seeing oil slicks in their taro patches.
Wow.
right? It's a problem that I never thought of, but these guys are experiencing it every day. The other health and safety problem they got now that the restrooms are closed is your last bathroom is from Haiku all the way into Kenai. Now, the Kenai bathrooms is supposed to be for the community, but if you spend some time there and you see how packed it is, it's a problem. And then when I talk to the guys that live out there, said when they go hunting or if they're going to the rivers or anything, every gate that they have, people are, let's just say, going where they're not supposed to go because they have no other choices, right? So it is a huge problem. That road is a huge problem. How can we control it? You know, we talk booths. We can't do that. It's not legal. Senator English came up with a reservation system that I believe is still in the process. You know, we try to put people on mass buses to get in there to keep everybody in track on one place so they don't stop, jump over the side to take a picture. I saw people standing on the side of the road taking selfies on the opposite side of the railing next to a cliff. People get in trouble that way. So there's so much bad behavior out there, and it's because we're in this paradise playground that makes it safe for them to do these things. How can we get those dangers out? And I truly believe it's the messaging, that multi-messaging, once again, airplane and just all the way up, buses, everything. It's got to be geared towards proper behavior on that road to Hana. How can we limit that? You know, like anything, there's capacity. Don't use that word, malama. Malama is part of capacity. When the room fills up, a fire marshal will shut you down, right? There's a capacity on that road. We've done studies. I know there's studies been done on what the capacity is. How can we adhere and enforce this capacity?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to explore that issue, I think, more in depth too in the next one, but thanks for those thoughts, Ekolu. I keep going back to needing to work closely with the state too. We need to have that interaction, which has started this year. I mean, in my first year on the council, there was very little collaboration between state and county, and we're getting much more this current year and yet last year.
I got a wild idea for you, Kelly.
Okay.
Privatize that road. Have somebody buy it.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if we could get the state to do that.
Sell it. State can make money. Sell it. And then privatize it. Toll booth that thing.
See, those are the kinds of issues I think we need to explore in the summit, because I love that idea. I don't know if it's legal just to privatize a state road, but you know, it's definitely something to talk about. I'm going to take one more. We're at 7:17. I'm going to take one more question, which is specifically about Palau. So that will go to Orion, and then I want to go to the poll results. And then I want to go to some commentary from the public, and we'll see if we have time to finish out some of these questions. But I will let you folks know that if there are questions that aren't repeat questions that need to be answered, we'll try to send these around to our panelists and then publish the answers on Facebook, because we want to follow up on everybody's question. We want everyone to know that we're hearing them. So the last question for this segment is, for Orion, did Palau experience opposition to their move to regulating tourism from large corporations or industry groups? If so, how were you able to succeed with implementation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was something, so actually we weren't. We were really just guided by the public interest, and there wasn't any kind of pressure from the business community or anyone else. You know, we did consultation with different businesses. While engaging in those consultations, once in a while, you know, we had a little pushback on different things, and we worked with them to try to, you know, figure something out. But really, there was very little pressure on us, and you know, I think that's one of the reasons that Palau has been able to achieve a good amount, is that there is that lack of pressure. You know, I think that's more difficult in Hawaii.
That must have been so wonderful to, you know, just be going with the green light. You know, we're noticing, especially with the moratorium, that almost to a person, support came from the community residents, and even people working in the industry, taxi drivers or hotel workers were all in favor of the moratorium. And the pushback we got was from industry leaders who don't even live here on Maui, and you know, paid lobbyists for the hotel associations, the timeshare associations, and the B&B associations. So we unfortunately, I mean, I would love to be able to say there's no resistance, because the people who live here are the people we serve, and they're all for, you know, just putting a pause on growth. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people in the political system who give voice to the corporations and the industry leaders. So we have that pushback constantly. So anyway, just interesting that you folks didn't. So right now it's 7:20. I'd like to, if we can, Sarah, go ahead and just post the results of the poll for the 5 questions. You have those?
Yes, we'll need to go through them one by one in order to share the results.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll start with question number 1.
Okay, what makes a quality tourist? It looks like it's hard to tell who. What's the red line for?
That is the majority.
Okay, so that was the number 1 thing, that what makes a quality tourist is respect for the host culture, followed by followed by minimal environmental impact and limited impact on residents, and supporting local businesses. Okay, well, that's good to know, because, you know, that was one of the things we discussed in the council when we were doing the resolution, is that this is not really about wanting just all the rich people to come here. So we want respect for the Aina. Okay, next. Okay, do you think that tourism affects climate change or the environment? So number 1 answer was significantly, followed by a few people who said moderately, and it's like 1 person said minimally. It's as expected. I mean, you all have seen the data. Next question. So they all pop up as number 1 because you're doing them individually, right?
Exactly.
Do you think Maui residents are losing our aloha spirit because of the increased numbers of tourists? And the number 1 answer was yes. Okay, next question. Have you personally experienced conflict with tourists within the past 6 months? It looks like 51% of respondents said yes, and 30% said no, and then 19% said no, but have witnessed an incident firsthand. So that would be among 2 other people. Okay, thank you. Next one. This is the final question. Okay, final question. Do you believe our county should be taking action to decrease the number of tourists on Maui? All right, thank you very much for this. Yes, 89% said yes, and I really appreciate being given those marching orders. We're working on it. Okay, let's close that out. And Sarah, who are you? Is it you or Ellen who are keeping track of the raised hands for folks?
Yes, I'll be announcing the testifiers. So the first testifier we have in line, it looks like, is Kevin from Maui Sustainable Solutions, and he will be followed by, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but Cara Flores.
Okay. So how many people do we have signed up right now? So I know how
8
much.
as of now.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. We'll right now we're giving everybody 2 minutes. If you have more to say and we don't have more people that want to speak, we can come back to you after 2 minutes. Okay, Kevin. Unmute yourself. Sarah, is there a way to let him unmute his
There we go.
and
I
video?
think they just figured it out.
Okay. Can you unmute? You want to
Okay.
your video so we could see you, or you don't have
I don't know how to do that in the current format we have.
Okay.
Doesn't seem to have the option for me. If whoever's, I hope this isn't coming out of my 2 minutes.
Okay, why don't you just go ahead and start then?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to share some things that Maui Sustainable Solutions has been working on, and we hope that as we open up sustainable tourism into a more common topic and start to develop there, I've been tooting this horn for a while. I'm sure you recollect it, you've heard it from me, Kelly, but a distributed network of water refill stations across the islands helps our residents. It keeps us prepared for climate emergency. It helps our resiliency to climate change. A significant part of climate change is actually just plastic pollution in the ocean that can cause a coral death event that can cascade. You know, we have the Pacific Gyre, size of Texas, that's all plastic trash collected over the last 60 years. We need to systematically reduce plastic, single-use disposable plastic. And I think one of the best solutions is a distributed network of water refill stations. It's going to help our houseless population, and it should be a resource that the tourists know right when they land where all the water refill stations are. And I think using our county parks and our state parks is a great place to do that. Secondly, I want to share something is we actually are launching a program right now called Hui Zero. And in regards to what Orion had shared about Palau, where all of your containers are reusable, we got grant funding last year to do a feasibility study on a reusable food container program for local restaurants. And we actually have our containers on way to the islands right now as we are launching that program and signing up restaurants. And so it is it's a stainless steel reusable tin. And if a restaurant signs up, after you have it once, you just trade it in. And so that's a way that, because during the Sustainability Division's budget meeting recently, just to wrap up the recent budget meeting, the cost of recycling has tripled since the pandemic. And so reduction is the big focus that we need to link into.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Kevin. And I'm not sure if you're aware that I was able to get into this upcoming budget money for the feasibility study we needed to do to put the water refill stations in our parks. So they'll be going around and looking at the conditions of the water fountains and switching out the ones that have the older water fountains first. So thank you for that, because you were the impetus for that idea.
Oh, great. I keep
making a difference, Kevin. Okay, next we have Kara Flores.
Mahalo.
Mahalo to you.
Yes, next we have Cara Flores, and they will be followed by Paul Carter. And Cara, you can unmute your microphone.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes, and we can see a beautiful picture of you.
Awesome. Okay. This is Cara Flores, and I just wanted to hit on the fact that we really do need to expand our bus service. I just returned from Oahu, and I used the bus the whole time I was there, except for one ride to a place that I needed to go that was very affordable to get a single ride. So I saved hundreds of dollars, and it was easy to do and convenient. And it did limit where I went, because everything I thought about was how far is it from a bus stop? How hard is it going to be to get there? And I think if there's a way, and that's what I don't know, if there's a way for the county to legally regulate and limit the number of rental cars so that they are expensive, and then to expand bus service. I know I used to live in Huelo, and there used to be a bus that went all the way down to Huelo, and the bus route was stopped at one point and never continued. I know one of the routes to Kihei was discontinued as well. So I'm wondering what the county can do to limit rental cars and to expand bus service.
Okay, well, that's a great question. I think that should be a whole topic in itself, but definitely a topic for the summit. And there were some routes that were temporarily suspended because of COVID, but you should see the routes starting to be expanded back out to where they were before the pandemic in the coming months. And certainly marketing the bus system is an ongoing question, because that's an ongoing issue, because the number one thing is to get our ridership up. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for taking the bus. Years ago, there was an effort by some citizens to thank people for riding the bus, and this is way before the pandemic, and this had to do with just getting more cars off the road. And so they were meeting people at certain stops and then giving them a cookie when they got off the bus and thanking them for taking the bus. So I'm appreciating people for doing things like that and riding their bikes and things and getting cars off the road. I think is really important. So thank you so much for that comment, and we're making notes of all of these major issues, and I do consider that a major issue. Thanks, Kara.
And now our next testifier is going to be Paul Carter, followed by Kaisa Liu. I hope I'm not butchering your name. So you can unmute your mic.
Paul Carter.
Okay. Aloha, Kelly, Genesis, Ekolu, Orion. Thank you first for offering this forum for us to hear you and also share with you. I want to really, recognize what Ekolu said to all of us. And I think that is the most important, is that we're educating not just the tourists, but ourselves. And those of us who live here, who are often acting really not pono either, or just out of ignorance many times, that we really focus on that and make Malama Maui a program for everybody, yeah? And spread it as in many ways as we can, like you said, on the airplanes, in the tourist cars, at the hotel, everywhere, yeah? And the second thing I want to say, and this is a question there too, because I don't know, there seems to be so much focus on this limiting and successfully limiting the illegal transient rental accommodations. But as far as I know, that's not where most of the tourists are staying. The vast number are staying in the hotels. That's really a small effect, and yet it gets so much press. And to me, it's almost counterproductive too. And I think that the kind of tourist that comes and stays and, just with a local family is more a kind of tourist I'd like to have here, and potentially more informed. I mean, in my fantasy, we would close most of the hotels, make them long-term rentals or affordable housing for all the people who don't have housing, at least some of them. Yeah, make sure we can shelter all the people who are living here, because that's so sad, yeah? I think taking over some of the hotels like that, certainly not building more. That's just so wrong for what we see. I think everyone said, yeah, what's the number one quality we don't like? It's too many. It's that simple, yeah? It's not that, it's not that any one person is bad, yeah? Yes, there's some fools, but for the most part, I think people have good intention, but it's just too many for what we have. You don't want to have, 10 guests staying in your bedroom, do you? Or in your backyard, as Ekolu was saying. Yeah, it's like, no, we want to, keep it reasonable number, that we still have space to, practice what we want to practice here. So that's my question, is how many? What are the numbers, And does it, maybe we need to focus more on where the numbers are, and especially these large groups that come. And what can we do about them? Either limiting them, or some of you were suggesting limiting where they participate, and making it more with buses, where instead of 50 rental cars, it's one bus going down the Hana Highway. Yeah, I think that would be a big difference. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for listening, and thank you guys.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for giving us your thoughts. When you were speaking about more people needing to understand the Malama Pledge, it reminded me of the Climate Reality Project and the huge effort that Al Gore is making, started making and continues to make in training people in this message so that they can go out and teach the message to other people. And we happen to have on our island Olena Harkajo, who for 6 years was Al Gore's right-hand person with developing the climate reality training. So she's on the Climate Action Advisory Committee. So maybe that's something that we can talk about in that committee, creating that kind of a project. But that really sparks that thought in me. So thank you for that, Paul. Appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll move on to the next.
Yes, the next testifier is Kesa Liu. Again, I hope I'm doing okay with your name, followed by Amber. Kesa, you can unmute your mic.
Hi, thank you. It's Kesa Liu. Sorry.
How are you doing?
I always feel bad when I have to correct people, but yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to Dr. Young, Orion, and Ekolu and Councilmember King for putting this all together. This has been really informative for me. It made me think about a lot of the solutions that have been presented to us so far. And a couple of notes I just wanted to point out. You know, we talked, there was a talk about overseas tourists being a bit ignorant of our history and our culture, but I think we also need to recognize that that is also within our mainland tourists as well. Mainland tourists in school are not taught the history or culture of Hawaii at all. So you have to recognize that they don't know anything when they come here too. And so that piece about educating all of our tourists, including the ones that come from the mainland, is incredibly important. I love the idea of having many touch points. And not just being on the plane, but also in everything that we do, and making sure that the workers who are in the hotel industry are empowered enough to tell the tourists that, you know, what they're doing is not culturally acceptable, because I think that is also an issue too, that they, you know, they're afraid to say something. So all of those things I think play a role in that education piece. I do also want to point out that we do need to regulate the amount of planes. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying it. Because it needs to happen. Not just because of the impact it has on our quality of life, but I didn't even realize the impact on the environment. So again, thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is huge. We need to do that work. And I definitely want to give a shout out to Councilmember Johnson for putting in that work to talk to Alaska Airlines, Councilmember King for accepting that invitation. That's what we need. You guys need to help us do this work. And the last thing I'm going to point out, Ekolu, you summed up something that I agree 100%. And that's that the situation is not going to change unless we all put in the effort to move in the right direction for our community. You are so right. I love that you pointed that out. I agree 100%, you know, and we can all do better, and it's worth it for us. It's worth it for our children. So again, thank you so much for coming here today and enlightening me. I didn't know these things. It just makes me want to push harder for all these things that you guys talked about today. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Kesa. I always appreciate when you come on. I'm writing notes on all these things, so we may circle back with you when we put together the summit. And yes, thank you to Councilmember Johnson. I think he's on the call now too. Next participant.
Yes, the next testifier is Amber, and Amber will be followed by Thomas Brandt. Amber, you can now unmute your mic.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, so you can hear me. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me join and testify. My concern is, and I think I'm speaking for pretty much everybody that lives here, is about commercial activity on beaches, nearshore waters, harbors, any sort of public land, whether it's county or state. And I was wondering, because I just kind of opened this can of worms recently about how all these regulations work. One is it possible for Maui County to put a cap on the number of permits for commercial activity? Now, I know the county does have a cap on county permits, but DLNR told me that there is no cap on permits from the state. Can the county come up with some sort of regulations to put a cap on state permits? And also, let's see what else here. It's not just unpermitted or unregulated activities, but even the permitted ones still break rules. For example, like Kamehameha Iki Park, there's still surf schools going through that park that don't have Cora permits. It just seems like it's just a free-for-all, and it was a free-for-all before COVID, and then everything got closed down. And now that we've gotten back to whatever this new normal is, it's, oh, we lost all this money during the shutdown, so we shouldn't have to abide by these rules, or nobody knows what the rules are. I've contacted agencies, county and state, and everybody has been very helpful in the enforcement areas, but they say they're understaffed and underfunded for enforcement. And I'm just wondering what we can do. Also, I guess another solution I might have is, in addition to a county cap on commercial activity everywhere for land or nearshore waters or harbors, is also, can the public get access to a list of permitted businesses? So the business name and where they're allowed to operate, so that we know when we're going to places if these businesses are actually allowed to be there. And I guess number 3 would be, do any of the elected officials at this meeting support any sort of increase in, say, short-term accommodations tax or some kind of increase in tax to fund enforcement of commercial activity regulations and to put a cap on the number of permits from the county and state?
Okay, thank you for that. I think Ekolu wanted to speak to what you were asking about.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I hear you. I'm experiencing that same thing. You saw the images that I had in the beginning. So what we've been trying to do is to work with the operators for voluntary compliance. Now, we've been trying that for 10 years and it hasn't worked. Education outreach, their call to action is muffled when economics is involved. So I recently had a meeting with DER, DLNR, DoCare, Parks and Recs, plus the fellows. So it was a multi-agency meeting to kind of address the issue, because I know we're not the only ones experiencing this. This is a statewide issue of illegal activities, overuse, destructive use. It's not illegal for a kayak to be stuck on a call. It's not illegal for guys to be walking on the call, because there's a minimum amount you got to destroy before it becomes illegal. The state has the ORMA permits, Ocean Recreation Management Area. You have South Maui, West Maui, they have these permits, and you're right, there is no cap on there, and there needs to be a cap on there. But what came out of that, one of the solutions that came out of that was from DOBOR. And they were saying if there are areas that they're not going into, work with them, and perhaps they could draft some rules up to eliminate the activity in that space, right? But when you look at DOBOR, DOBOR, DLNR, DoCare, underfunded, understaffed is the typical answer you're going to get, and partially correct. If we threw more money on them, would these problems go away? I don't think so. The problem is still going to exist. Right? Unless we throw some serious amount of money and people on there, then perhaps we can make a difference. So there is options out there, but I would prefer not to go through some rulemaking process. I would hope that this is the right time to encourage the economic and recreational activity that's occurring, for them to realize that it's time for them to step up, take a little bit of a loss in their revenue, live within their means, protect those resources so that it'll be there for tomorrow. I think now's the time to do it. I hate to go through a rulemaking process because you never know what's going to come out on the other end. Yeah. So sure. Hopefully that answered a little bit of your question, but feel free to contact me and I'm happy to work with you on something like this.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
So much. And that was Amber, right?
Yes, mahalo.
Okay, next one.
Our next testifier is Thomas Brandt, followed by, I hope somebody can help me, Nikhilananda.
That's right, you got it. Okay.
Thomas, you can unmute your mic.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I want to hone in, get more local in my bigger picture comments I've been posting in chat, which are intentionally big picture and more long-term in nature, ideas for changing the game, so to speak, instead of just trying to tinker around the edges of the current status quo and make it more tolerable. But I just heard on the local TV news tonight that the Maui Council member representing Hana, is it Shinseki? Is that how it's pronounced?
Shane Sinensi.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. You might already know he's proposing a pretty hefty, something like the visitor fee or tax that I mentioned in chat and other people have mentioned, like $400 each. So that's not a new idea at all. In fact, you got somebody on Maui already thinking that way. So I just wanted to mention that to people who weren't aware of it. And my ideas about new, more novel ways to try to capture more of the wealth and income generated by tourism, capture more of it locally and spread it around more, because most of it is currently exported to absentee owners, and what stays here is too concentrated in too few hands. So I posted some more novel ideas about how we might do that, including a resident-owned toll road going to Hana. Instead of having the government own it or some private investor, let's have we the people own it. And then, like Kelly's well-known biodiesel business, that's a very good example of other ways we can reduce our dependency on imports, both financial imports and imported goods and services. And I think there's a lot more potential to do that in new and different ways, including my last comment in chat about 3D printing. It has the potential to change the game and make it possible to manufacture locally many more types of goods that right now we can't do it. We can't make them here cheaper. We have to import them because it's still cheaper to import. But ideas like that might make it possible for us to make more of our own local stuff and stop sending too much of our money out of state and keep it here and benefiting us instead of people who don't live here. And with that, I will give up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Thomas. I really appreciate, and we'll try to capture all the conversation that's on the chat so we can write down your ideas.
Mahalo.
But thank you so much for speaking up. Okay, Sarah, next.
Our next testifier is Nikhila followed by Nicola III. Nikhila, I so apologize. You can unmute your mic.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, I'm impressed with all the other challenges you had. You got my name perfect, as Kelly pointed out. So no apologies, all these other names. So anyway, I know we're running short of time. So in no particular order, I just want to say this is a real provocative panel. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Kelly and panelists. I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking, even if some of them are off the wall. Whenever there's a change in every impact is going to have an action you don't know what might happen as a result of it. So we just have to at times check them. Anyway, I remember standing for office where both 20 years ago, where both other candidates, in those days we had partisan races, and both of the candidates says, we don't need a bus system. People are never gonna get out of their cars. We don't need a bus system. And now 20 years later, you see that 2.5 million people rode the bus a couple of years ago. Someone mentioned, I think it was Cara, I've lived in Huelo for 23, almost 24 years. There's never been a bus in Huelo that I know of, so I'm shocked to hear that. It goes as far as the Haiku Community Center and recycling yard. Curbside recycling, to go into environmental things, is long overdue. I don't think we'll ever do it, but a curbside recycling is what's needed. Raise the property taxes on large homes plus non-resident homes. You talked about that, and that's been tried for years and never goes through. But of course, over time, things, as Kelly knows, things have been changing. There's a difference between a tourist and a traveler. And of course, build more toilets and restrooms. When I have to go, if there's no toilet, I'm gonna go. So we need more facilities. And maybe I wanna finish with this. My parents visited twice in the 70s. To Maui. My father was a triple amputee from World War II. So for him, using a public bus system, which didn't exist then, he would have been impractical for him. So again, when I'm pointing out, when people say raise the price on rental cars, there's impact because, as I said, there's a difference between travelers and tourists. And I think, but I just, again, thank you, Kelly, so much for the panel. I think hopefully I'm still within the 2 minutes. Thank you. Aloha.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I appreciate your thoughts, and we'll capture those in writing too. Okay, we're running close, so let's see if we can get through. How many more do we have, Sarah?
We have 5 more at the moment. Our next testifier, who is Leonard Noah III, followed by Stephen Meyer. Leonard, you
Okay.
can unmute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. You know, one of the major problems is it's in our planning department because they don't want to approve all these hotels. They don't want to approve all these $1 million homes that us locals cannot afford. That's where these millionaires come. They buy the $3, $4, $5 million homes, and they only stay there for 2 months out of the year. The rest is what they either rent them out to short term or whatever. So it's happening. Okay. They approved the White Layer. The planning department approved the White Layer project. All $1 million homes, infinity pools, not everything where the locals no can get them. Only the rich people who can come and go and use our resources and and then go back home to the mainland. It's happening here in the PD Bay. I brought it up many a times. The developer went and asked for a special permit for a single family home, but now he's saying that he likes them as a short-term rental, and all that kind of stuff. So, Kelly, this probably gonna be for you. Would you consider making a take to investigate this department?
Yeah, I think we actually have that issue on the agenda in the Mike Molina's committee.
Yeah, I know it's in the on the agenda. Mike Molina came out today to meet me to go look at the project. But I brought it up to him too, is that we got to investigate the planning department because they just keep on approving all these projects, and we as locals get pushed out, and only the rich people get to benefit. And then that's where the tourists, they find all these short-term rentals, and then they stay over there. And yeah, in here in Lahaina, we get Kanapali. Yeah, leave all the howlers over there, all the tourists over there. And then, like you guys are saying about commercializing Kanu Beach, we make sure no more commercial activities happen over there. The whole Lahaina kids and all came over there. But guess what? Oh, the park's been closed since last year, October. And it's still closed. So us locals get shafted again.
Okay, thank you, Junior. And let's touch base on that issue to find out what's going to happen with the audit. Planning department, we did pass a planning department audit in the budget. So let's talk offline on that. I'd really love to talk to you about that further.
Okay, mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Mahalo.
Okay, and moving right along, our next testifier is Stephen Bidner, followed by Jonah Lyon. Stephen, you can unmute your mic.
Apologies, Mr. Bidner. I'm getting a message that I can't unmute you because your version is outdated.
Because what? Your
version is outdated.
Oh, your version of Zoom is not updated. Mr. Bidner, are you able to get on? All right, let's move on to the next.
Could just put comments in chat.
Yeah.
Can you hear me at all?
Oh, now we can hear you. Yeah, we can see you too.
You can see me. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember King and the whole panel. I mean, this is the most important topic locally that could possibly happen. I'm so happy you're doing this. Listening to all this, I was reminded of the summer of 1969 where I had an internship in college talking to congressmen, and I talked to Congressman Mo Udall about urban problems. And I asked him, what is the most important urban problem? And he said, overpopulation. Everything else is just Band-Aids. And when we're talking about this topic and we're talking about managing tourism, it's all great, but fees and taxes and reservations is just managing it. For me, we just need to figure out some way to limit tourism. I mean, I noticed that there's been an approval for a direct flight now from Newark, New Jersey. So the whole east coast of the mainland is now going to be able to come here really fast. So somehow we have to more than manage. About a month or so ago, I was feeling impotent about this, and what can I do as a person? The only thing I could think of is I took all the articles from the Maui News about over tourism, and photocopied them, and I sent them to travel writers all across the U.S. And I said, I'm sure mostly you write about suggesting where people should go. How about suggesting where people should not go? And very nicely, I told them about the issues here. I haven't heard from them, but I'm hoping that, that somebody will get the message that maybe it's not the right time to come to Maui. I mean, I know this is a global problem and there's over-tourism everywhere, but unless we stand up for it, we're just going to be like everybody else, and we're going to be like Oahu and many other places. And I'm also glad that there was some clarification about quality versus quantity of tourism, because I think both are important, but we can't screen for quality. I mean, we can do a lot of education, but just, if it's about affluence, to me, that's not the way to go, because there's probably an inverse relationship, perhaps, to affluence and quality. And when I used to visit here a way long time ago, before I ever moved here, I would have been eliminated. So I don't think affluence is the major thing to look at. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm so glad you were able to get on.
Me too.
Okay, so stay involved. Don't give up yet. We're working towards the solutions.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Bidner. Okay, next participant.
Okay, our next testifier is Jonah Lyon, followed by Dick Mayer. Jonah, you can unmute your mic.
Aloha, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Mahalo, Kelly, pleasure to be here with you. Mahalo, Genesis, Mahalo, Ekolu, and Orion. Really beautiful conversation. I'm wanted to come in to share a little bit around. I've actually, since we've opened back up, moved into to kind of have an experience of what it's like to be a guide, a tour guide on Maui, and so I'm right out there on the front lines, essentially, of what this looks like from that perspective. And so I love everything that's coming in, all of the solutions coming into that. One of the things that I've been working on specifically in that arena is the ecotourism kind of platform that is brings in the cultural protocol. And in these tours, essentially, before I even take any of my crew out anywhere, we drop into sharing the Aloha Spirit Law, sharing Ho'oponopono, sharing ways of being around leaving it better than we found it, around regeneration, and getting people into that kind of mindset and working with the educational component of it so that they're in a deeper level of awareness while they're out on the adventure tour. And I've found that this has actually been very receptive by the folks taking these tours, and they're very open. They appreciate having the education and feeling more grounded, integrated into the Hawaiian cultures. And this is something that I've learned while being here, and then feel that it is my responsibility to pass that on and to share that, and to what is happening out there in that is these now all of a sudden these tourists they're supporting by picking up trash while we're out there. They're supporting by being in a more space of respect and reverence while out on the tours, instead of coming from it just being about the entertainment, but I like to call it edutainment now. There's still the entertainment factor of it, but there's an educational component to it. And so I think this is a great way to go about it. And I think that the tour guides are a great way that we can be kind of the facilitators and teachers to support that education aspect of it, from the point that the tourists get off of onto a plane to come to Maui, after they get off the plane, to the time period to their resorts, to getting out and going on these tours, whether it be Road to Hana or Haleakala or anything to that matter. And and so to utilize that and almost make it protocol for us as tour guides to facilitate that and to bring that level of awareness and cultural protocol into the experience. So with that, I'm complete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I made a note of that. That's an excellent idea. And so stay in touch, please, if you can, because I think it's important to try to quantify too how many folks we have like that are tour guides that are interested in doing being ambassadors for our island, basically. Thank you so much.
Indeed. Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much.
Next we have Dick Mayer, and he's followed. Is he the last one? He's followed by Shane Sinenzi, or is there one after?
There's one between them. Sharon Freddy would be following Dick Mayer.
Okay. Is everybody okay to stay on a few minutes past 8? Our panelists, are you okay? Does anybody need to leave right away? Okay, thumbs up from everybody. Okay, we'll go to Dick.
Hello, thank you everybody. Wonderful job that you're doing so far. Thank you, Kelly, for organizing it. I want to say that what we really have is a battle to protect our island and protect our county. And we have a lot of forces arranged against us. If you look at who owns all the hotels, none of them are locally owned. Most of them are owned in New York or by multiple pension funds or what have you, big investors. And we have to stand up and fight them. Who flies here? It's not local airlines from Maui. It's United and Southwest and Hawaiian Airlines. None of them are Maui Airlines. Look at the rent-a-cars, Avis and Hertz, etc. What we need are the tools to be able to stand up to these things. And several times today, it was mentioned that we don't have the ability to put a toll road on the Hana Highway, or we can't regulate the rent-a-cars because they're coming out of the airport. But what we need to do, I think, is to get the county and the state to begin cooperating much more on regulating this industry. The state is going to be losing revenues over the long term if the overall product of tourism deteriorates and Hawaii loses its wonderful reputation as a great tourist destination area. It's in the state interest to protect the quality of tourism in the state. And I would hope that we would get the tools to do the things so that we can put a toll road if we need it, if that's the tool, or we can regulate rent-a-cars, or we can regulate the protection of the coral reefs, or whatever it might be that we need. We need to get these tools. We need to get our state representatives, state senators, state council members on board to work with us. And I don't think we have to fight this one alone. The other neighbor islands in particular have the same issues involved, and we can work together at the ledge to get some of these changes and introduce and give us the tools we need. And locally here, one other state issue, of course, is that there are many in the state who would love to see Maui's Kahului Airport lengthened into an international runway. And that plan is still out there, and we still have to protect that. That would be a total disaster to allow direct flights from all over the world, all the international flights coming in, and there are forces at work at the state level that would like to see that happen. Here locally, and I don't want to go in detail, we need to get the property assessments of the big hotels and the timeshare units raised up. Right now, the assessments for these hotels are way below what they should be, and that is a tool that the county has now available to get the revenues so we can repair the damages, whether it's pullouts on the highway, whether it's better bathrooms, all the various things we've talked about, preserving areas of the island into county parks that would really be protected areas where you can't do certain bad things. I could go on, but Kelly, thank you for starting this. I know this is not the end all tonight.
Right. Thank you so much, Dick. Appreciate it. And I know you'll stay involved, so we'll be tapping into your expertise a little bit later.
Thank you.
Okay, mahalo. Okay, Sarah.
Okay, we've got Sharon Freddy up next, and then that is followed by Councilmember Shane Sinenzi, who is, as of now, our last testifier on the list.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Sharon.
First of all, thank you so much. I know you all are taking over 2 hours away from your families, and we truly appreciate this time. I just quickly wanted to say that as a resident here for a while, I have been around and seen how Ekolu runs his business. And I really, truly believe in his business model where he teaches his clients about the history and the popular way to conduct themselves while they're visiting Maui. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we can require businesses that are going to profit from visitors to have a type of plan like he does ready to go. Like, show us how you're going to educate these people that are here, that you're making money off. How are you going to educate them to do what is right for Maui? I'm looking at things like, okay, I know that the hotels have cultural advisors, right? Well, what if we had some kind of county position where there were cultural advisors for all the businesses, that this is kind of the model that we want you to follow? Or because of this, the gentleman that was speaking earlier, yes, he says he's a tour guide. Well, if he, we're wondering who's educating him? What has he learned? Does he really know the true plants that are indigenous to our county? These kind of things. So when I look at, us going forward, I'm wondering, is there a way to have cultural advisors, this position, like a larger, a grander platform? What is your thoughts on those
Actually,
ideas?
Sharon, that was kind of one of the things I was talking about, kind of relating it to the Climate Reality Project. Where they have they have all the data and information captured in presentations, and they teach people how to give the same presentation. So everybody's giving the same information, and you actually have to take a training course that's 3 or 4 days long. So, I just put that down as a note, like that might be something we want to look at, creating a network of ambassadors who are all saying the same information, and we get the right information, and everybody uses the correct information when they're educating our visitors.
Yes. So, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your wonderful thoughts. And we're going to go to our council member, Shane Sinensi, who will be our last speaker, unless council member Johnson is on and wants to say a few words. But Shane.
Aloha, Kelly.
Aloha. So good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and aloha to our esteemed panelists. We've been taking notes, so mahalo for all of your work at this town hall, and we're okay with hosting our next town hall on sustainable tourism. We've looked at some of your questions, and especially, I believe, question number 2 with respect for the host culture. So we're hoping that at our next meeting, we'll look at it from a cultural perspective, a cultural lens, including, Kamehameha's Kanawai o Mamalahoi on safe travels on all roads and thoroughfares. Also, we wanted to look at the Lono season and about safety in streams and in our oceans. Also, Iwi Kupuna and a history of pandemics in Hawaii. And then finally, the great deeds of Maui, Nahana Nui of Maui, and the Maui brand. So we're taking notes, and hopefully we can address those things next time. Thank you.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Shane. And then for folks who don't know, Councilmember Sinensi is Vice Chair for the CARE Committee, the Climate Action, Resilience, and Environment Committee. So we've been working closely together on that committee. And when you do host the next one, perhaps we can put a component in there of discussing how the state and county can work together, since you're on that state road. So appreciate that. Thank you. I look forward to attending your next town hall. And I've got Sean Lester on the line. I want to give Sean he just needs 30 seconds, but I know because he's very connected to Ed Lindsey. So if you want to say a few words, Sean, then I'm going to go to Councilmember Johnson and we'll wrap it up.
Mahalo, appreciate that. I'm going to make it real quick. I had a thought about the toll roads. I remember Tom Morrow years ago, just a really good friend, and we had a lot of laughs about the way that the state and the locals work with roads, and it was a riot. So one of the things is, what if we just make the toll roads on either side of Hana for half a mile a toll road? We take care of that half mile, we leave the rest of it as a state road, but we only take responsibility for the toll road for that one particular area, make up a reason for it, and then make that part of it a toll road and do it in both sides. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, thank you for that thought. We'll hold that thought for Councilmember Sinensi's town hall. And then let's let Councilmember Johnson, thank you for being here, and thank you for your great efforts and your heart for this issue, because I know it's one that's been concerning you for a long time.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Kelly King, for the great panel you have set up. It was really, even though you study so much, you learn so much more, and I love the different angles and the different approaches that we all have been suggested. So I just want to continue the talk that we're going to have with the airlines and get them at the table and bend their ear and kind of hear what they have to say. And we all want to be solution based, right? We all want to have kind of solutions and collaborative work. So I think this is a great way to do this. So I look forward to maybe doing a third one after Councilmember Shane Sinensi does his. We can look at one and we can continue the discussion and maybe, build off of what you folks have done so far. So I'm all up for, working on that. So I know it's a long evening. I just want to say thank you for all. So mahalo.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for offering to host the next one. We do have you slated for the third town hall. So thanks, Gabe. And I'll see you a little bit later this week. So we're going to circle back to thank you to everybody who commented and gave your thoughts, and whether you wrote them down or spoke, it's much appreciated. It adds to the potential for solutions. And so I want to just go back through our panelists and give you a 1 minute wrap up if you have anything else to say. And so Genesis, why don't you lead us off? We'll go in the same order that we had the panelists. Genesis, do you have any last minute thoughts?
I just want to thank everybody for their comments, and we'll keep working together, gathering as many ideas as possible to try and find whatever we can to solve this over too many tourists, too many people. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for, spurring this on and for spearheading the upcoming Sustainable Tourism Summit. And next we'll go to Orion Cruz.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Kelly King. It's really been great being with you and the other presenters. I think it's really encouraging to see, everyone hear or see everyone's thoughts and opinions. I think it's such an important issue for the future of Maui, and so to see this kind of interest, gives me some hope. We can take this island and the tourism that it attracts in a sustainable direction. So I don't know. Thank you to everyone, and great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for adding to the discussion and giving us a perspective from Palau. And then finally, we'll come to Ekolu Lindsey. And again, thank you, Ekolu, for sharing that beautiful video that you shared of Ed. And what are your parting thoughts?
Welcome. Thank you. I'm sure that brought some tears to a few of you out there.
Yeah.
If I had my magic wand to fix some of this stuff, I would encourage all the small nonprofits, for the people doing the work in the mountains and the oceans, to become a part of the solution by creating better visitors, creating that visitor experience. But government's got to figure out a way to incentivize or help the small guys in creating that business model. Direct corporate sponsorship would be awesome, but maybe one of the HTA and VCB guys can create an umbrella where they can put the people back to work in their kuleana, their space that they normally work. We did that with the Maui Cares project. We put 7 communities to work, and they did their kuleana. It was meaningful work. We also retrained people in these programs to take care of these spaces. And because it was that much more meaningful, it changed people's lives. And the visitors who were able to volunteer after that happened changed their lives too. So I really feel that in order to make a change and enhance visitor experience and utilize tourist dollars effectively while putting local people to work within their own kuleana space is the key to solving this issue.
Okay, let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you so much. Wonderful perspective, all 3 of the presenters today. You add, what a rich conversation. And this is just the beginning, because we started touching on solutions. We're going to get there with the next 2 town halls, and then sit down for the summit and really write out some of these things and vet them for legality, for practicality, for implementation. But I think we've accomplished the goal that I set for this meeting, which was, are we on the right track going ahead and, looking at, partnerships between public-private partnerships is what we're looking at across the board. What can government do? What can the private sector do? What can the NGOs do, the nonprofits? And this is the first step in that conversation. So appreciate all of you for being part of the discussion, for hanging out with me for 2 hours at the beginning of the week. And we will be, tasking you in the future too. So this is just the tip of the iceberg that we're touching on, and we're going to get to the meat of the problem real soon, because there's some of us on the council that are very results oriented, and we didn't get here for our health or for our career moves. We got here to do some, to make some changes, and you guys are the ones who are going to help us get there. So thank you very much. I'm going to say aloha nui. Let's see, Sarah, did we want to do, what was the screenshot you were trying to capture? Was it with the panelists?
I believe that was an Axel thing. Axel, do you want to chime in?
I think we have the recording available. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. Somebody from one of the media had contacted us and was asking for a screenshot, but I wasn't sure what they were asking for. So, okay, so we'll let you go, and good night all. Thank you so much. Mahalo nui loa. Hui ho. We are going to continue. Okay.